explain a little bit about the model, and then we'll go into the muscles, okay? And you can start.
Okay.
All right, so first we're going to start with the torso model. And one thing I want you to notice is that the right side of the model has some of the muscles stripped away so that you can see the deep muscles. These are the superficial muscles, or I should say that's the left. It's the patient's left. So if you look at the model, you'll notice that the right side of the model, you see all the superficial muscles. On the left side of the muscles, we've taken some of these superficial muscles off so that you can see deep. And this is very important because a lot of times people will mix up superficial and deep muscles, especially on the back. Whereas we know, for example, this muscle, which is the trapezius, is on the surface, and these muscles are deep to it, and they have cut them away on the left side of the model so that we can see them, so that we can see muscles that we otherwise would not see. Now, the muscles on this model are this kind of brownish color. The bone on this model, as you'll see, is this bone color. And so you should be able to recognize that this is the scapular spine right here. This is the scapular spine. You can see the bare skull here. You can see the iliac crest here. And so you can sort of see the different tissues on this model in the different colors. So here we have ribs, and you can see some ribs over here, and the costal cartilages. And you can also see connective tissues that are in this kind of airbrushed light blue, pale blue white color. And we'll go over a lot of these, but what we'll do is we'll start with the head and neck. And so the first muscle, I believe, is the occipitofrontalis. So it's really in two places. It's here and here. So it's in the back of the head and in the front of the head. And as the name implies, occipitofrontalis. So the muscle covers both the occipital and the frontal aspect of the skull. And we have the frontal belly and the occipital belly of that muscle. And then the next one probably should be temporalis, but I don't think they put that on the sheet next. That's this one. And it's on the temporal bone, not surprisingly. And then we have this white connective tissue called the epicranial, because it's on the cranium, the epicranial aponeurosis. All right, the next muscle on the sheet, I believe, is the orbicularis oculi, which oculus is an eye. And orbicularis is this muscle that surrounds the eye, and it's a sphincter, and it'll help you close your eyes. So that is the orbicularis oculi. What's next? Orbicularis oris, ora means mouth. So the orbicularis oris is this one that surrounds the mouth. Okay? The nasalis, basically, and you can see it much better on this side. Nasalis is the one over the nose. So it's this, they didn't really delineate it very well on this model, but it's the one that goes right over the top of the nose. And they've done it kind of smooth in this model. The buccinator. The buccinator is a deep muscle. So you'll see it on the left-hand side here. So it's deep and it runs this way, kind of longitudinally under the ramus of the mandible. You see that right there? So that is the buccinator right there. Zygomaticus, we have two. Zygomaticus major, which is on the bottom, not surprisingly connected to that zygomatic bone. And then we have zygomaticus minor on the top. So zygomaticus major, zygomaticus minor. Okay? The masseter is the chewing muscle. It's the muscle of the jaw. It's the one that runs from the zygomatic arch to the mandible. And that's what you chew with. And if you've ever heard of mastication as chewing, that's done with the masseter, which is this muscle right here. You can see a salivary gland and a salivary duct right here. And that's a dead giveaway because the parotid gland is sitting right on top of it. Mentalis. And that's the one that's in the mental region. So it's this little muscle right here. It's right on the chin. Sternocleidomastoid, as the name implies. It has its origin on the sternum and the clavicle, and its insertion up here on the mastoid process of the skull. And you can actually take it off and look at it. It's this one, sternocleidomastoid. And again, the name of it reflects what it's attached to, the sternum, the clavicle, and the mastoid. Okay? splenius capitis is on the back of the neck. And to see it, it's deep. You have to look on the left side of the model. It's right here. And here you can see where they've taken the trapezius and cut it away so that you can see what's underneath. This is splenius capitis right here, this muscle. Pectoralis major and minor are muscles of the chest. So these are your bench press muscles. So your pectoralis major is right here. And you can see that it's connected to the clavicle, the sternum. It'll have its insertion on the humerus. And think about when you do your bench press or your push-ups. So this is the major. And now underneath the pectoralis major, here they've cut part of it away, you can see the pectoralis minor. And you can see how its attachment is on the coracoid process of the scapula, and you have its attachments on the ribs here.
Serratus anterior.
So serratus anterior is this muscle right here. And it kind of makes this sort of fan blade appearance along the side. You can see it both on the left side and on the right here. So both of these are the serratus anterior.
So the pectoralis minor is a
deep muscle. You will not see it on the surface. So notice on the model how the pectoralis major is here, and then we cut the pectoralis major away here so that you can see deep. And you can see the ribs, you can see the costal cartilages, you can see the pectoralis minor right here.
external oblique.
The external oblique is right here, and this is one of the side abdominal muscles for your twisting and rotation. The external oblique, notice how the muscle fibers are running kind of at a 45-degree down angle, like you put your hand in your pocket. And that would be this one. And it's only on this model on the right-hand side. Because on the left-hand side, we see the internal oblique. Are you guys able to see the external oblique? I want to make sure that you see the external oblique here. You can see that the muscles have this 45-degree angle in the grain of the muscle, like you're putting your hands in your pocket. And this is the external one. The internal one is this one, with the fibers running kind of at a 45-degree up angle, at a different angle. All right?
Rectus abdominis.
The rectus abdominis is your 6-pack or your 8-pack or whatever. That's the straight muscle of your abdomen. This is the one everybody works on for when they're going to the beach or whatever. So this one is attached. It has its origin at the pubis, and it has its points of attachment, as you can see, on the xiphoid process of the sternum and on these costal cartilages here. So you can see this rectus abdominis. And when you do your sit-ups, think about, you bring your rib cage towards your pubis, right? So you bring the insertion towards the origin. We also have a connective tissue that we need to know called the linea alba, and that is this white line right down the middle. Now they've covered this model with some fascia that kind of obscures it, but if you look on this model, you can see this is the linea alba. And this is a good model showing the superficial muscles. Okay? The trapezius is the big muscle on your back, and it's the one that you do your shrugs with and this kind of thing. So that's this one. And you can only see it on the right-hand side on this model because we cut it away on the left so you can see some deep muscles. On this model, you can see it kind of makes this big diamond or kite shape. The levator scapulae, as the name implies, lifts the scapula. It'll lift it and roll it slightly forward, so that's this one. And you can see here how it's attached, sort of that superior medial edge of the scapula, and runs all the way up to the first 3 or 4 cervical vertebrae on those transverse processes.
Can you touch that one again for me, please?
Right here. And you can only see it on the left side because it's deep.
Subscapularis.
The subscapularis, as the name implies, is under the scapula. And you can't see it on this model, so we have to go to the arm model. So we take the arm, and you can see here's the deltoid, which is the shoulder. I can take it off or leave it on, but in any case, under the scapula, you see the subscapularis muscle here, and that covers the underside of the scapula. Okay? Supraspinatus muscle is going to be above the scapular spine. It's going to be this one right here. And you can also see it on this model. we turn it over, you can see the supraspinatus right here, number 10.
Infraspinatus.
Is the one right below the scapular spine, so all of this. So this is the infraspinatus on the arm model, and also the infraspinatus on the torso model. And notice that on this torso model, we've taken, on the left side, we've taken this muscle off, the deltoid, which is intact on the right side. And that's this muscle right here as well, that I've taken off of this model so that we can see inside, we can see. But you can still see parts of the infraspinatus here. You can still see the supraspinatus on this one.
Rhomboid major.
The rhomboid major is this one right here. There's a rhomboid minor, this one that's not on your sheet, but together this is the rhomboid group. This is the rhomboid major.
Latissimus dorsi.
Latissimus dorsi. This is the one you do your rows with and your pulling and your pull-ups with. That's this big muscle right here. You can see it also very well right here on this model. And then we also have the thoracolumbar fascia right here, which is this white interconnecting fascia near the base of the spine. You can see it here as well, thoracolumbar fascia. Deltoid is the muscle in the shoulder. This is the one that you do your overhead presses with and your deltoid raises with, as the name implies. Okay, what's next?
Biceps brachii, short head.
The biceps brachii, short head. Now the biceps brachii are the muscle, is the muscle on the front of your upper arm. This is what you do your biceps curl with. It also helps you pronate, so you need it to open doorknobs. So we've got the long head and the short head. I'm going to take the deltoid off again so you can see that the long head is the lateral, it's on the lateral aspect, and it's the thinner of the two, and it actually has its tendon go through that intertubercular groove. Remember that? It's also called the bicipital groove, and it attaches right above the glenoid cavity. So its origin is right above the glenoid cavity, and it'll insert into the radius, the radial tuberosity. Then we have the biceps brachii short head, which basically attaches from the coracoid process down to the radial tuberosity, and it's on the medial side of the arm. Brachialis is underneath it, and you can see part of it here, and it only comes up about halfway up the humerus here. And you can take this off and you can see inside, and you can see the brachialis right here. The triceps brachii are the muscles on the back of your arm. Think of doing your triceps extension. And when you do your bench press, and also when you do your push-ups, you're engaging the triceps as well. So we have the long head and the lateral head, and we also have, actually we're going to show you just the, this is actually supposed to be the lateral head. So the triceps brachii, long head is the bottom of your arm, so that's going to be the one sort of on the underside of your arm here. And the lateral head is going to be the one that's more lateral. And if you see this kind of horseshoe shape here, you can usually see that when somebody flexes their triceps muscles. A lot of that is really formed by this lateral head of the triceps brachii.
Brachioradialis.
The brachioradialis comes around from the upper arm and will attach into that styloid process of the radius. So it comes around like this. It's this one right here.
Can you do that over here?
You see it? Flexor carpi radialis is going to let you do this, one of the muscles that lets you do this, and it is on the radial side. So on the thumb side, it's going to be this one, right here. Now there's a great landmark that is not on your sheet called the palmaris longus, and it's the one that comes right down the middle. This is a great landmark because the flexor carpi radialis is on the thumb side of it, and then the flexor carpi ulnaris will be on the ulnar side or the pinky side of it. And so if you use the palmaris longus, which is number 30 here, then you've got a beautiful landmark to show you exactly where flexor carpi radialis and flexor carpi ulnaris is. Gluteus medius. Now we're getting into the muscles of the leg. So what I'm going to do, first I'll show it to you on this model. The gluteus medius on this one is kind of airbrushed. And it's this pale blue over the muscle right here. But I would also like to show it to you on the leg muscle. Somebody got a leg up on us here, so I'm going to have to bring it back down. So on this muscle, not quite so nicely airbrushed, but or on this model, I mean, it's right here. This is gluteus medius. Gluteus maximus is one of the largest muscles in your body. That's this one. And this is the one we're all familiar with from doing our squats. The tensor fasciae lati is right anterior to the gluteus medius, and it's right here on this model. And on this model, it's right here. And it's called tensor fasciae lati because it pulls on this right here, which is a white fascia, and fascia lati means white fascia. And what it's pulling on is, we call this the iliotibial tract. So a lot of times you see part of it here as well. The iliotibial tract is basically this band of connective tissue that runs down the lateral side of the leg. The biceps femoris is going to be on the back of the leg, on the lateral side of the leg. So it's going to be this right here. The semitendinosus is going to be the one that's medial to it, right here. So this is the semitendinosus, and right below that, here, we have the semimembranosus, or semimembranosus. So the semitendinosus sits on top of the semimembranosus. And it's going to be sort of on the medial side of the posterior aspect of the leg. Together, this is the hamstring group. Sartorius, that's the one that starts from the iliac crest anteriorly and traverses sort of diagonally across the leg and attaches to the medial tibia here. So this is sartorius. Gracilis means long and straight, long and thin. And the gracilis goes straight from the pubis down to the tibia. So this is basically from the groin down to the knee. And that's the one that goes straight down the middle of the leg from the interior of your thigh, inside of your thigh.
Adductor longus.
The adductor longus is this one right here. And you can tell because it's got this telltale little connective tissue right at the top of it. So this is adductor longus. You can see it a little bit on this model as well. Well, they cut it away. This would have been it. No, actually, I'm sorry, that's sartorius. You can see it on this model very nicely right here. So that's adductor longus, that's adductor longus. And you can see the little white connective tissue right where it attaches. The adductor magnus, you can see right below adductor longus. You can see it on either side of the gracilis. So if we look at the gracilis, we see the adductor magnus here and the adductor magnus here. If we took the gracilis off, this is the adductor magnus. All right, what else? The rectus femoris, rectus means straight, by the way, straight down the femur. So the rectus femoris is this muscle right here. It's part of the quadriceps group. And we can think of it as kind of a hot dog in a bun, because this is kind of a hot dog. And then we have the vastus medialis on the medial side, and the vastus lateralis on the lateral side. And that's all you need to know on your sheet, because it's really all you could see. If you want to pull this off, you could see vastus intermedius, but it's not something you need to know. So, gastrocnemius. On the lower leg, what I'm going to do is teach you a little bit of it. We're going to go out of order on the sheet because I'm going to teach you an acronym from front to back. And that's teach every friend something good. So on the anterior part of the tibia here, you have the tibialis anterior. Then you have the extensor digitorum longus, which as you can see goes all the way down into the foot. You can see that the muscle has connections all the way down into the foot. Then we have the fibularis, which not surprisingly runs right along the outside of the fibula. You have the longus and the brevis, but you don't need to know them. All you need to know is that the fibularis just runs right down the side of the fibula. And then we have the soleus right behind that, and the gastrocnemius. Gastrocnemius, which some people say gastrocnemius, it may help you remember it on the test better. The gastrocnemius basically has its origin in the femur and attaches into this piece of connective tissue right here called the calcaneal tendon. So this is the gastrocnemius, or gastrocnemius. And if you wanted to, you could take it off, but then I'd have to take all this other stuff off too. This is the soleus, is right deep to it. And those are your calf muscles.
What was that acronym?
Teach every friend something good. So tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, fibularis, soleus, and gastrocnemius. All right. Then on the back of your sheet, I'm not going to go over all of these with you because I'm going to remember all the ones that are on the list. But you have some muscles that you need to memorize the origins and insertions, which is fairly easy to do because when you think about it, the origin is the non-moving part. The insertion is the part that moves. So we already went over the pectoralis major, for example. Our origin is going to be our sternum and our clavicle, and the insertion is going to be the humerus here, for example, and you can think about what's moving there. And the masseter, for example. The origin is going to be the zygomatic arch, and the insertion is going to be the mandible. And what moves when you chew? The mandible, right? So that's where the insertion is. The rectus abdominis, once again, the origin is the pubis. The insertion is going to be the xiphoid process of the sternum, and the costal cartilage is here. You can see that. And if you look, for example, at sartorius, I don't know if this is on your sheet or not, but it's obviously the origin is the ilium, and the insertion is going to be the tibia. And typically the way this works on your lab practical is you will be given usually 3 or 4 questions related to origins and insertions. And it will ask you, pick one of the 3 following muscles. And there'll be 3 muscles that are on that sheet. And it will say, list the origin and the insertion. So you write the name of the muscle that you picked, then you write I for insertion and write what the insertion is. O for the origin, I guess start with the origin first. Write what the origin is. And then you can pick any one of the 3 that are on there. So you have 12 different muscles to pick from because you'll have probably 4 questions pertaining to that. And one of the things that I tell people, if you forgot one and you really don't remember, during the revision you can come around and look at the muscles and kind of figure it out from looking at it, right? Because you could look at this and say, well, the origin of the gracilis is the pubis, right? The insertion is going to be the tibia, right? Is that on the sheet, by the way? I don't know if it is or not. Yeah, pubis and tibia right there. And you can see it. You can see it right here. So that's how I would suggest you study your origins and insertions. But those are important, so don't blow them off. Do make sure you know them so that when you have these questions on the lab practical, you'll be able to answer them. And the other thing is, if you forget, it's very simple. You just come up to the model and say, gastrocnemius. Well, it looks like the femur here would be the origin. And the insertion is the calcaneal tendon. You can see that, right? So that's how I suggest you would study for that. And that's basically the presentation.